Hi, I'm Helen Van Wyck, and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to show you the technique of the old masters. I'm going to try to anyway. They had so little and did so much. We have so much, but I'm not going to continue that sentence. They had to economize on their paint, and so there was a way that they thought would be handy. They did what is called an underpainting and saved the coloration for glazes. The underpainting was done in tempera, which was a fast-drying water-based medium, and really the origin of our paints today. Into tempera, the oil painters added more oil, and the watercolorists added more water to this basic emulsion. I've set up a still life, a rather oriental theme, and I'll show you briefly how an underpainting would go. I have a darkened canvas since I'm working with acrylic, which is the 20th century's answer to tempera. I don't have to worry about coverage. Acrylic covers fantastically well. And so I'll have a tray here. How do I get it that round? Years of drinking. And then this is going to be here, and here, and then these are going to be in here. I'm not going to bother drawing them because it's going to take up too much time. If I'm going to show you the technique of the old masters, I need as much time as I can get. I'm just going to show you how an underpainting would be done of this brass tray. An underpainting is a tonal evaluation. For instance, I'm going to put a very light tone here to represent the highlight. And I'm going to put a very light tone up here to represent the highlight on its rim. This object has only two anatomies. That's Hungarian plural for anatomy. And a highlight hits per anatomy. So if we have two, you get two highlights. One, two. This is on its concave, and this is on its rim. And so I would put in the values that I see to make this tray. This tray is casting a shadow on the background. There's a dark shadow here because of the concavity is stopping the light from going in there. And the highlight, you see, I have over here. That middle tone, I'll just repaint to get the blend between the two. And I think if you squint your eyes at this, squinting always helps because you see what the paint is trying to do rather than what the paint is itself. Because after all, paint is a medium. It's a way. It's a means to an end. And so I think you can see that these tone values are starting to make this tray look concave. And so the entire picture, all that you see over there in that still life, would be interpreted just with with tones of light and dark. And the underpainting then is a foundation for all the colors that I can put in on top. I always like to say that an underpainting is like underwear or a foundation garment. It makes you look better in the end. Well, so let me not take the time to do all these objects because from a standpoint of instruction, you have already found out that this tray can be concave in shape by just putting in the tone values. So let me stop for just a moment and bring in my other underpainting to show you what glazes will do to an underpainting. Yes, you can see that I have painted all the values, not the color, just the light and the dark of all these objects. I'm going to glaze the color on. This glaze should not be confused with the word used in glazing pottery. Pottery adds a texture. I'm going to actually add the color. the glazes are transparent applications. All these colors are transparent. The only thing that makes oil paint opaque is white. Well, I don't need white. I've got all the values all situated right here. So I'm going to thin these colors to apply the color, and I have my thinner in this little bucket. It's a painting medium made of linseed oil, Damar varnish, and turpentine. One time, Sargent dipped into his medium and did something brilliant. And someone said, "Mr. Sargent, what are you mixing with your paint?" And he said, "Brains." So I know many people wonder about medium. Medium is just the stuff to thin the paint to make it possible. So one of the things you have to do when you glaze is to keep your colors as immaculate as possible, because you don't want to get them contaminated with dirty turpentine or dirty medium. So I have it in this cute little can. And why don't I show you what cadmium yellow medium, thinned with medium, see how it is on the palette? See what that does to this underpainting. Ooh. See where I have the value very light? The color is getting light and bright. Where this color is now, I'm going to darken it just a little bit now with raw sienna. Look what happens when the color goes over the darker tone of gray. Because this is so thin, I know the vernacular isn't that fancy, I can slop that color out into the background, because I'll do the background next. And the background's going to be more of a dominant color. It can overtake this. Now, if the glaze gets a little too heavy, we can dip a rag in this medium and bring the value back. Glazing is a way of painting. And one of the advantages of glazing over a monochrome, this is being mono 1 chrome color, a monochrome of black and white, is that we don't get this terrible, unhandy buildup of paint. This is thin, so it's going to be able to withstand quite a bit of further development, I hope. Because the glazing, even though it is making a rather satisfactory look of brass, the glazing process is never the final application. It's a means to an end. Doesn't that really look nice and shiny? I'd love to paint this way. In fact, I incorporate glazing in all my painting procedures and techniques. I feel as though the underpainting is a security blanket too. Gives me a chance to think only of contrasts, gives me a chance just to think of composition, and know that I still have a process to make lovely color. Now, the old masters did get very luminous color, and glazing does give you a luminosity. I always say they were just being practical. They didn't want to waste their paint on making the object. They wanted to waste their color on making the object. They wanted to save their color to color the object that they've already made. So they got and they weren't looking for luminosity. They just got it as a fringe benefit by this technique. Ooh, wow, isn't that a nice, wonderful, brilliant blue? And look how little I've used. That really does please my Holland heart. I always feel as though I can take a stab at Rembrandt, since he was Holland and I'm Holland descent. They say he was left-handed, too, as I am. Guess you've noticed. So was Leonardo, and so was Da Vinci, and so was Sandy Koufax. So he had pretty good aim. You need that in painting. Good aim. And so this green of this old ginger pot is being introduced. And this slight celery color on this blue pot before I put on the blue design. Maybe I can get that with a very thin glaze. More medium and a little bit of paint to take away the uninteresting plain black and white of the underpainting. You never should leave any of your underpainting show. I hope this red really does fly off into some wonderful, ooh. Now, if I want that red darker, I could make my glaze thicker. Ooh, why didn't I put a little bit of color on that little blue thing? Well, it's not blue, it's white with blue on it. Put a little yellow on it. Little yellow never hurts. We're used to a yellow light. Our sun gives us a warm yellowish light. You see, in the days of Rembrandt, electricity surely wasn't around. He was accustomed to painting with one source of light from one window. He saw beautiful shadows because one source of light always does give you beautiful shadows. So I always like to say he wasn't really very talented. He just didn't have electricity. I got to get back at him somehow. Fantastic work. And even colorless black, the background, can't be glazed just with black. It has to be a colorful black. Black with, I think I'll even put a little red in that too. A still life painter ends up to be a collector of stuff too. I happen to enjoy Oriental things, along with all the other things I like. Baskets and medals. I'm going to show you how to paint silver. I try to collect that too. Although I do feel these more earthy things are fun. But if you paint, even if things are unfamiliar to you, or to anyone, if you paint things looking as though they shine because of the light striking, you can paint something that is unfamiliar and the person recognizes it because he might not know the object, but he can see the light. Hallelujah. So this is the glazing process started, and let me step back and see what's happened so I can further continue it with either more glazes or the way glazed areas usually are developed. Yes, I see that my glazing over and underpainting has established the body tones or the basic values. It hasn't really given me the pizzazz that I want to give it, but I can easily put that on because that comes from more contrast. Let me show you. With a little bit of white, now this is some direct applications on top of this glaze, I can accentuate. I don't want to lose it. I'm just going to put it where I feel as though I need it. Right in here. Maybe get it a little bit lighter. and maybe lighten it over here. And with a heavier glaze, maybe using some burnt umber and burnt sienna, who knows whether it will work or not, I'll put it in here, yes. Roscoe used to say, Helen, if you know what you're doing, you can do it with a broomstick, but use a sable brush, it's easier. But your finger sometimes will blend it in. Now I see a delightful red reflection up from here into the brass. So a glaze adds the red onto the brass without really digging into the overall wonderful solidity of the object. We don't want our tone values to break up the anatomy. Now, all patterns are best put on in a glazing method. Why? Because if you glaze the pattern on, the pattern will wrap around the dimension that you've already established in the underpainting. That carries that blue over on this side kind of nicely, doesn't it? I don't have to worry about whether this blue is going to get darker in shadow. It's going to get darker anyway because it's being glazed over the darker tone that I've already established. I also think that it would be nice to try to make this little green ginger pot stand out more. So I'm going to accentuate the dark with more dark, accentuate that dark hole. But it seems as though I'm going to have to use some brighter accents. So green into white. Aha, that helps it. I never have too much of a firm, preconceived idea as to how this picture has to look. I'm willing to go along with it. Yes, I have a procedure that is my discipline to accomplish it, but how do I know? I really don't know. I don't have a guarantee wrapped around the handle of my brush. I only have hope. Hope that it's going to look acceptable, fitting, and that nothing stands out as glaringly wrong. Remember my philosophy for keeping my sanity? If I make it all wrong, it's all right. There's no such thing as perfect. So don't try for it. Here's the highlight hitting on the apex. Well, right here is where the light seems to be hitting it. This kind of light. And how nice the highlight is to apply onto this glazed surface. I'm not trying to overcome the thick paint that established the little green vase that I like so much. My husband doesn't like that vase. But, well, I just have to go on another shopping trip and find more vases. And this little blue thing needs highlights to give it a little bit of a spark. The spark of its shiny texture. And when I do that, it seems to activate the glaze. Makes it sing a little. Ooh, I don't know whether I want to do that. I'd like to keep that. Kind of a low statement. You can always glaze it heavier too. Off-white, white, black, a little yellow too. Ooh, I didn't make that light enough. This, I found the underpainting was too dark. Yes, the success of your glazing comes from having your values right. I think many of you who have gotten to know me already through my many shows know that I'm always thinking in terms of tone, that the tone of the color is the most important factor of the color. And surely this lesson proves that. And now I'm going to use darker red. The glazing process sometimes gives you paint that's too bright. You get a chance to mute it down. In fact, just another version of the basic principles, the reliable basic principles, that a picture is made of 7 components. I'm going to lighten the background. Do I dare? I don't know. You try. I could spend hours on that background. Backgrounds really need a lot of devotion. But let me see how this is coming along. I need some lighter tone over here. Yes. Composition, shape, tone, color, the way the paint looks, the way you make your edges, these are the things that we learn. Not just a manner. I'm going to add another highlight here, another highlight here, and here, and here. And I think I'm going to darken this. We really don't know exactly how the old masters painted, but I have spent some time in Holland, and I visited a very small museum in Friesland, and I saw a painting half finished, and it had an underpainting, and it had glazes. But to know exactly how they worked is just speculation. To say we know exactly, say he did this and he did that and he felt this way and he felt this way. I love what Roscoe used to say when people were speculating about that. He says, "Was you there, Charlie?" And I'd like to go on and paint more on this. And I think I've shown you pretty much what the technique is all about. And next time we meet, I'm going to paint apples, my favorite subject. Or maybe I'll teach you how to make soup.